Well, this was supposed to be part of the design overview, but it got a bit long, so I opted to make it its own thing. I want to get a little technical here and go over the actual creation of the level with Unreal Editor and surrounding. A priority for me was smooth gameplay and clarity. When working with nearly realistic environment art, if collision is not kept in check, you may get a janky, catchy level where the player ends up getting all snagged on stuff all the time. So, most of the meshing in this map actually has no player collision. Rather, there are player blocking volumes everywhere, largely made up of converted BSP. This keeps movement nice and smooth and simple, and means I don't need to worry about what the player is going to get caught on. As for clarity, when realistic environments, particularly sci-fi ones, get busy, it can make targeting enemies and reading the room very challenging. I tried to keep a more complex background away from the player's sightlines and make sure the floors were low contrast and crystal clear. This hopefully makes it easy for players to find their targets in the heat of battle and know exactly what's going on when they walk into an area. The alpha of the map was made with BSP largely, since it's a great method for grayboxing and it's highly malleable. BSP, however, is not a great final solution for map geometry. That would be static meshes. Where the geometry was too complex or for highly specific areas, I would convert the BSP floors into static meshes and use a world-aligned texture to make the tiling floor match. Tasteful use of trim meshes and decals also helps spruce up the otherwise plain floors. For making the repeating walls you see, I created static mesh blueprints and placed those all over the map. This means that A, I don't have to select all the component meshes if I need to move them or delete them, and B, it allows me to make global edits to the mesh, quotation marks, if I need to change the material, remove player collisions, or just light map resolutions, for example. For the record, I know you can merge meshes, and that's a very convenient way to do a very similar thing, but after that you can't really edit the components of it, and I have had a lot of bad luck with overlapping UVs and other complicated things, so I just opted not to deal with that this time. This map contains a lot of dynamic elements, which I define as things that move or are interactive. Obviously, there are particle effects, but that's kind of low-hanging fruit. The big guns, literally, are the moving environmental elements that give the Artemis planetary defense platform some life. The first and most obvious is the large rotating Artemis gun in the background above Rocket Arena. This moves back and forth and gives the weapon some life. If it were static, it might imply that it's just some kind of machine or structure, but the sweeping motion should be familiar to anyone who's a fan of sci-fi as a turret of some sort. The next element to discuss is the munition feed belt in Flat Corner. It's kind of the centerpiece of the back of the map. The blueprint operates by having a custom modeled mesh move along a spline with a clever snapping animation trick that allows it to give the illusion of continuous feeding without an annoying, complicated timeline. On regular cues above the map, you'll see a pair of jets fly over, alluding to the military nature of the facility. These are the same kind of blueprint as the ammo belt, but have a linear timeline and a different mesh setup. I also made a custom ribbon effect to give them a vapor trail. You can see the path take them off into the distance. The shield belt door is another dynamic interactive element I'm rather proud of. It's based off the generic door blueprint that's already present within Unreal Tournament, but it has a custom modeled mesh, changes light materials, and has several other elements, all activating and deactivating when the button is interacted with. In addition, a custom pain zone that checks for players that are currently inside it to do damage to them. Dotted throughout the map are several rotating objects, various fans and turbines and some such, which give the world a little more motion, makes the facility feel more alive. Not to mention they're really a great excuse to produce some ambient sounds. And the humble blinking light, which is located in a few different places. The look for the map was to be a mixture of grays and oranges with some stark blue and red highlights. I wanted to make things like colored pipes, fans, light sources, and other environmental elements pop, and to allow most of the play area to be rather desaturated for clarity during gameplay. Lights also play a role in the style of the map. A savvy Unreal Engine designer would notice there are a lot of movable lights around, and while I acknowledge the performance hit this can make, the style of the facility demanded it. I want you to see the shadows of the shells as they pass up the belt, and I want to show off the grates and long shadows they cast and the flickering energy with the shield generator. Most other lights in the map are static for performance reasons, but the splashes of moving and crisp light help to avoid the light looking muddy overall. I wanted to target a deep space colony on an alien planet vibe with the vista. I've done a long setting sun vista before, but seldom with the amount of complexity or atmospheric layers. The vista here is comprised of a set of terrain meshes, some generic rocks for up close, some structures to provide spatial context for the location of the play area, an edited default Unreal Engine sky, and some crafty planetary elements in the background to give the illusion that they're outside the atmosphere, which they actually are outside the atmosphere. They're very big and very far away. Dotted around the environment, you'll find a lot of markings and signs, most of which are custom decals that I designed in Affinity Designer and imported into Unreal. They allow me to make otherwise bland environments go a lot farther and make it easier to avoid repetitive visual patterns. As you might expect, all around the map are various ambient sounds. Some are targeted to certain objects, like the humming of fluorescent lights or the ka-chunk ka-chunk of a big visible machine that's moving. And others are more all-encompassing, like the wind in Grenade Hall or the ambient machine churning sounds of the Artemis gun. All of which are using specific and intentional attenuation shapes to avoid taxing the sound effects memory too heavily. And of course, I would be entirely remiss if I didn't mention the exceptional music remix of Mechanism 8 created by Nectarulin. I got the track off a public download link from their SoundCloud, and I want to make sure that they are credited for it. If you are a fan of UT Music, they've got dozens of remix tracks and are exceptionally well done. Link to their channel is in the description below. I'm proud of how much I learned about Unreal Engine, and how far my level design skills have come in just this project alone. I plan to make more maps as well, and to bring these design skills to other projects like Evasive Maneuvers. Shameless plug. I hope this video didn't come across too much as a giant checklist of, ooh, look at all the stuff that I did, but I hope you enjoyed this slightly more technical topic. And until next time, take care.